the sake of making your work easier. And in the last 2 years, I will tell you the experience which we have that I will share with you during the presentation, why we needed this presentation. And guidelines, circulars we all issue. Since morning you must have heard a lot of complicated, lot of technical words as well as some compliance issues from the Aadhaar Act, different provisions. Also, you have also heard from our DDG Madam about the Supreme Court judgment, what are the provisions, whatever the instructions have been given. Now, in this case, two cases, Section 7 and Section 44B2, these two are the key for our state departments and as well as the central departments, because we will be using it till the time all our schemes or all our purposes are notified under these things. This is the basic thing which will be following. Before I get into that key features of the Section 7, already since morning our Deputy Director General Sir has already spoken about this. Our DDG Madam also she has spoken about this. But I must tell you that some of us who are in the government and first time you are hearing Section 7 or Section 44B, if I say that as government employee, in our day-to-day work, many of the times we refer to some one act and one particular section we use almost daily basis. Can anyone refer to that section in some other central act, not Aadhaar Act? In many times if somebody asks for some information under RTI 2005, Right to Information Act 2005, there in one particular section we use again and again. The information when it doesn't pertain to that particular division department or the CPIO, the central, that public information officer, we transfer the RTI. Are you aware of that? I think we are aware of that. We all deal with the RTIs. Section 6.3. Under Section 6.3 of RTI Act, we use it randomly, you must be knowing, that we transfer the RTI query to other department, other CPIOs. So Section 7, from now onwards, those who are in the state departments, particularly implementing the social welfare schemes, and if you are asked, maybe within the next couple of days or couple of weeks, that now we have to notify the scheme, that is the basic thing you have to do before we start using the Aadhaar, then what do we do? Some of the basic things we need to understand, that Section 7 is the core provision, it is the heart of the Aadhaar Act. Because of Section 7, the Act which was challenged in the Supreme Court, there had been a lot of petitions, you might have heard, might have read in the newspapers till 2018. So it was saved. It was passed as a money bill, it was argued, but our constitutional bench, majority opinion of the Supreme Court bench, they opined that yes, because of Section 7, this Aadhaar Act is constitutionally valid and it was passed as a money bill, also it was constitutionally valid. So this particular provision of the Act is the core. So whatever we are doing till now at the central government or across the pan-India all schemes, they are basically Section 7 schemes. 44B2, the other one which we have discussed in the morning, that came in 2019 after the Aadhaar Act was amended. So it says to avail any benefit or service, and if that particular scheme is coming for which expenditure is incurred out of consolidated fund of state or consolidated fund of the state or the consolidated fund of India, then the state or the central government may require, it is called may, not shall, may require that that beneficiary will undergo Aadhaar authentication or submit the proof of possession of Aadhaar. My colleague Mr. Manik Batra in his presentation have told you that when it comes to authentication, then there are 4 provisions, basically 2 sections, Section 7 and Section 4, but 4 provisions under Section 7, 44B1, 44B2 and 47. Here in Section 7, along with authentication, there is a provision and it is clearly written in our Act that they can furnish proof of possessions. It is not necessarily mean that you have to undergo authentication. And then another one which we have not written over here, that in case your Aadhaar is, the beneficiary doesn't have Aadhaar, then he can request for Aadhaar, but till the Aadhaar is assigned to that particular resident, your benefit will not be denied and alternate, it will be given based on the alternate ID documents. That I will come in detail when we look at the template. Now these 3 paragraphs which we have written little long sentence, please go through that. The second part is very critical, we have not discussed till now, but in 2019 we have issued a circular, I think many of you might not have seen that Supreme Court judgment said, majority judgment said that Section 7 is applicable only when the benefit or services are in the nature of subsidy. So it is not that benefits is a very general term, so it was challenged in the Supreme Court by the petitioners, and if you read the Supreme Court judgment, there have been several paragraphs have been written on that the benefits and services which are there in the Aadhaar Act definition, that it will be in the having a nature of color of subsidy. Then it has to have a welfare schemes, like it is targeted towards a particular deprived class. I give an example that in central schemes, we have been dealing with central schemes almost saturated since 2016 December onwards. Then after judgment, limited number of notifications have been issued, but before Supreme Court judgment, almost 70 to 80% of the centrally sponsored and central schemes have been notified. So those schemes, some of the schemes have been notified, like they approached us for Arjuna Award, Dronacharya Awards. When you give the Arjuna Awards, can that award be considered as benefit or subsidy under Section 7? Our legal opinion which we sought was that it is not, because it is a one-time thing, it is a recognition, neither they belong to a deprived class nor that particular award can be considered as a subsidy because it is recognition of your achievement. The next part was very interesting, important. Therein, there was a writ petition from Bangalore in the Karnataka High Court, sir, Major Bhumbarta, I am just missing his name. So that writ petition was about the notification in 2017. One notification was issued by Department of Ex-Servicemen Welfare regarding the pension of our retired or ex-servicemen. So that was challenged in the Supreme Court. Along with those batch of challenges, that judgment said in one line that earning is a right. So anything which is earning in nature, it is your right, that cannot be considered as a benefit and cannot be covered under Section 7. So I'd like to bring to the notice of all our colleagues and officials from our state departments, if you see that something is like honorarium in nature, salary in nature, awards in nature, Section 7 cannot be applied. Okay. Third important part is children. As my colleague Mr. Manik Batra already told you, that children were, specifically there are a lot of, a few paragraphs have been written on the children, whether children can be covered under Section 7. Supreme Court judgment said, and according to the Act was modified, amended in 2019, therein it has been mentioned, Section 3A3, it has been inserted, that no child can be denied for want of Aadhaar. Okay. So all the children notifications which were issued pre-2018 judgments are now getting amended, and the states which we have issued the circulars and we are supporting the states for issuing the notification, therein also the Section 7 notifications for the children are different. I will just come to the next slides. So in 2019, August, our Aadhaar Amendment Act was passed in the Parliament, in July, sorry. Post that, in November 2019, UIDAI, we issued a circular to all the states, and the letter was issued by our Chief Executive, the Chief Executive Officer to our Chief Secretaries. That circular is available in the website. That circular has given the detailed outlines, detailed steps which you need to follow to notify a scheme under Section 7. Now, several questions are coming in the last 2.5 years from different states that why do you need a notification? In the Act, there is specific, there is no mention about that it has to be notified. It is correct, but we must tell you that when 2016, after passing of the Act, there had been a lot of interactions between Legal Department, Ministry of Law and Justice, DBT Mission Cabinet Secretariat, UIDAI and Ministry of IT, our parent ministry, Ministry of IT. And it was decided that to make a structured way of notifying so that all compliances are taken care by all the departments and ministries when they are notifying. It was agreed and decided that UIDAI will be the focal point for facilitating these notifications drafting and vetting for all central schemes. with the help of Ministry of Law and Justice. That we had been doing since 2016, almost we have saturated. But in 2019, when we issued this circular, this is the circular, it has got 2 templates. You can't read that. This is the 3-page circular. Steps are all written over there. Along with that, we have annexed 2 templates, ready-made templates. I must tell you, it is a ready-made templates. Template 1 talks about the schemes where your beneficiaries are over 18 years, adult beneficiaries. So that notification template has to be used almost in using comma, full stop, whatever is there, I'll tell you that. Next one is children specific. Therein some additional provisions are there. I refer to that section 3A3, that provision is there, and that children, no child can be denied, and some additional, their parents' consents are important. Without consent of the parent, you can't go for enrollment, as well as you can't ask for the Aadhaar. Those things are there. It is not readable here. But these 2 templates were shared with all the state chief secretaries in 2019 November. Initially, sir, I must bring to your notice, sir, our DDG, sir, in 2020 January onwards, we wanted to organize such kind of workshops to orient all the states about use of Section 7, use of Aadhaar under Section 7. And we wanted to actually saturate application of Section 7, use of Section 7 within a month of 6 months or 7 months. That was the target. But unfortunately, pandemic started and we could not do that physical workshops. But since 2020 July, up to this year January, we had organized almost 5 to 6 VC workshops over VC with our AUA partners, with our regional offices, as well as some state departments, they also participated. But despite that, it's not moving? Sorry. Despite that, what we found that when state governments, they refer to us or refer to our regional offices, and in turn also they are referred to our divisions, Aadhaar usage division or DBT divisions, then we found that standard templates have not been followed, mostly distorted. The key things which are to be there are missing. They have also not looked at the applicability, like traveling allowance given to teachers, that cannot be considered as a benefit. Allowances are not earning. Allowances are just, it cannot be called a benefit. So there are several notifications which have been either issued or drafted during these 2 years of time. We found almost 500 to 600 we have reviewed at our level, whatever we could do that. But we found that majority of them had certain discrepancies and none of them actually followed our templates for want of some kind of understanding, lack of understanding, or maybe orientation. I don't know, because this is a legal notification, this is issued in a gazette, and there is some legalities involved because Aadhaar Act has to be followed, the compliances has to be followed. So in the process of when we looked at those errors common, then we found that we need to provide some guidelines, further trainings and orientations. For that reason, this presentation which I am presenting, it was prepared in 2020 July. So that I am so happy that we are presenting it before you. So there are 2 things which are very critical in this notification. What specific benefits you provide under that scheme, which is funded by state government, and who are the beneficiaries. As I said in the Supreme Court judgment, that qualified that benefit has to have color of subsidy and the beneficiaries to some extent to belong to the deprived class. And most of our social welfare schemes are actually fulfilling that. So if they fulfill, then you define that and accordingly that notification can be drafted. The second important part is that implementing agencies. Now all state funded schemes, you are the implementing agencies. Your district authorities or the block authorities, they are basically part of your system. If you have some agency like a scheme is being implemented to Kerala State IT Mission, then they become the implementing agency. But in most of the cases, you are implementing directly, so no need to mention. In case it is there, it is important. And why it is important, I tell you, because there is a responsibility of providing enrollment facilities through the implementing agency under Section 12 of the enrollment regulation. The third is that what I am saying, that notification template, unfortunately that could not be shared with all of you in the booklet which will be, I think, given by our regional office. There these 2 guidelines on the Section 7 and 44B, they were in 2019 and 20. We could not include that, but it is available in the website. So once you get an instruction, please approach our regional office and the soft copies, the Word files are already available. So it is a matter of 10 to 20 minutes job. If you know about these two things, benefits, beneficiaries, then your notification drafting is over in 10 minutes. That I always say to all my state colleagues and friends, but somehow in the process, I think some other officials who have not seen the guidelines or the templates, they start editing it and change everything. So it happens, and the official who are actually oriented, they could not tell that, sir, it is as per the guidelines of the UIDAI. Then after that, whatever discrepancies are there, they got published and referred to our Auth division to issuance of the survey code. Then it gets referred back to our division, see whether compliance has been made, and we write 2 paragraphs comments. These are avoidable actually. In the last 2 years, I must tell you personally, I have written maybe 500 pages of comments on the notifications which have been shared by the different state governments, which were avoidable, because it is a very simple thing to, if you understand your scheme, if you know who are the beneficiaries. Mr. Ranjit is here from Kerala State IT Mission. Sometimes he refers several of his programs to us, schemes to us. I ask him that please let me know in tabular form who are the beneficiaries, your notification will draft. I think we have helped you in doing that. So that is the basic thing. That message is very loud and clear, has to be loud and clear. And whenever you are proposing a notification, drafting a notification, please tell your seniors or directors, joint secretaries, or whosoever your authority for approval, that this is as per the guideline, this is as per the template, and if you wish, we can share some of the published notifications of other states, so you can really tell that this is the way we do. Central notifications are all there in the central e-gazette, egazette.nic.in. Soft copies are also available with us. The fourth important part is that in case of Kerala, Finance Department 2020-21, that notification was issued and it got amended twice. Finance Department wanted to issue the notification, which our director from IT Mission also spoke about at length, about those pension schemes, 16 pension schemes. That got referred to us, and we found that they didn't follow, and we made some revisions. Amendments were issued in the Gazette. Then finally, I think survey code has been also issued, which we are talking about today. Apart from that, e-grant scheme, initial e-grant scheme was there, that was not applicable under Section 7. Now I think it is covered under Section 44B. So in that particular case, 16 schemes were similar schemes, means they had one common benefit called pension. So your benefit is common, and beneficiaries are more or less that old age group, that senior citizen groups, or some other groups who belong to that deprived class, even BDO workers, several I think welfare. They're all basically welfare schemes. So in one notification, that 16 schemes were clubbed. That can be done. But if you have one scheme for children, one scheme for students, one scheme from old age people, another scheme from farmers, and all these schemes you want to issue in single notification, then that will create a problem. Why? Because first is that, as I said, our DTG said that we are purpose blind. That is true. But when the survey code is issued to the department. It is not scheme specific. So the department gets the permission, and under the department, whatever schemes are there, they can use other authentication. That is permitted. But if the 3-4 department schemes are merged, then one issue about the issuing of survey code. Second is that we won't know that the beneficiaries and benefit, do they comply with the Supreme Court judgment? Because that will be missed out. You can't define so many schemes, benefits or beneficiaries in one single sentence. Either you give an annexures and then you certify they are there. So that some states they have tried. In case of Kerala, because it was a single, as I said, pension and beneficiaries are all belong to that kind of category, so it was done. So we prefer that in the guideline we said that it should be state scheme specific, but if the benefits and beneficiaries are similar, then you can club it. The common errors which we observed in the last almost 2 years or 1 year is that many of the notifications are basically prepared as a circular. They have not published in the Gazette. Unless it is published in the Gazette, it will be not considered in UIDAI headquarter, UIDAI system for issuing of your survey code. Many states they have issued as a circular, they have not issued in the Gazette. Second important part is that even if those paragraphs are clearly mentioned that define as, because in the notification, once you define that this is my benefit, scholarship is the benefit, then in the subsequent paragraphs you don't write scholarship, you write only benefit in generic term. So that definition was missing in many of the state notifications. Third, even if children were there, they didn't actually use our children specific template where the specific paragraphs, enabling paragraph clause on that no denial of benefit to the children was missing. So that was also again that had to be revised. And fourth part, as I said, the many schemes were merged, around 45 schemes of 10 departments, 20 departments were merged in one notification. So in central government, I tell you that we have got 48 ministries, we have issued around 315 notifications, and we have a central department called Direct Benefit Transfer Mission, DBT Mission in the Cabinet Secretary. Our Chief Secretary, Sir Dr. V.P. Joy, recently had been our Secretary in the Cabinet Secretariat. He used to review all those things. There, DBT Mission actually could have done in one single notification, all 315 schemes in one annexure could have published, but we didn't do that. So similarly in the states also, notification, issuance of some notification takes, I tell you, one day, getting it published will be more than few days. So for the sake of easing the process that yes, in one go, why to bother others, what will happen in the concerned departments will not know about the nuances of the notifications, the provisions of the notification, they won't know. Everybody will be depending on the AUA. AUA will only look at the IT related part, the technical part, but the other compliance part is yours. That I cannot actually display over here. You have to give a publicity, you have to inform the beneficiaries that now onwards, the Aadhaar is being made, it has a requirement, you have to go for enrollment. In case you don't have Aadhaar, approach us, the implementing agency will facilitate the process to provide the Aadhaar. So those are the responsibilities of yours and your implementing agency, not of the AUA. AUA comes into the picture once the notification is issued and the UIDAI has issued the SAVIA code or SAVIA license. Here one important part, of course it is pre-Supreme Court judgment, but in the Supreme Court judgment it was given as also an affidavit that nobody will be denied. In section 7 says if Aadhaar is not assigned, you don't have Aadhaar or Aadhaar authentication fails, you will not be denied any benefit. So in DBT Mission in 2017 December, they issued a circular. It is there in the website. It talks about in case you don't have Aadhaar, some provisions are there, you can see. The alternate ID document. In the notification you will see the alternate ID document, voter ID card, passport, your driving license, even a certificate issued by a gazetted officer, all are applicable. So that can be also provided. But lastly what we say that those beneficiaries who are given the benefits without Aadhaar, their names need to be provided, names need to be entered into a register, preferably electronic register, and that register needs to be reviewed or audited periodically. That provision is there. This particular circular we have included in the this notification itself as a separate clause. It is there in that one. But these are the provisions which are there. It is now being reviewed by DBT Mission as UIDAI as well. Maybe some modifications will be done because almost adult case around 99.9% saturation is there. So we are still thinking whether this kind of exceptional handling will be required or not. In case Aadhaar authentication fails, so the provisions which are there, I am talking about 2017 December circular, if you can see. That time it was not popular, but now it is almost getting mandated. The iris scanner has to be there in case because of the biometrics and other issues, your biometrics are not working. So iris scanners have to be there if it is feasible, and it has to be provided by the implementing agency, those who are implementing the schemes, not the by AUA. In case your lack of if there is some connectivity issue, network issue, then OTP based or TOTP based authentication is allowed. And wherever your online authentication is not feasible, then offline authentication can be done. As of course earlier it was not so popular, but we are trying to advocate and also popularize that offline authentication. But with the condition that those names, those beneficiaries who are provided the benefits with these kind of things will be recorded in the thing, recorded in the register. That was all about section 7. Before I go to the next section, that is section 44B. 44B2, which we already discussed briefly. I wanted to basically interact with a couple of departments if time permits. That I think Social Welfare Department, Women and Child, I don't know whether anybody has come from Women and Child. Women and Child Development, 2 officials were nominated. Social Welfare Department, you are there. Labor department I spoke. Agriculture department, ma'am. Agriculture department. Agriculture. So I hope you are aware of that your department, the schemes we are implementing, some are centrally sponsored. Only when it is a centrally sponsored scheme means you have certain share, central government has got the bulk share, right? You are aware of that. So the schemes are defined as centrally sponsored schemes or central sector schemes so far as central schemes are concerned. Schemes are notified under section 7. For that, none of you is required to issue any notification. Whatever I said in these slides are basically for those schemes which are 100% funded out of consolidated fund of state. So that please keep in mind, this is only for those schemes which are 100% funded from the state government of Kerala. So we would have loved to actually know and sit with you today itself. If time permits, we can sit with you. If you have 20 or 30 another schemes which our Director IT Mission also referred, and if you have the details, we can draft the notification here itself within 10 to 15 minutes. It won't take time. Then you can process it for legal vetting and then get it published. So that is important. The denominator is how many schemes, and then which are already, some are notified, only few are notified by finance department, others are not. So if the state funded schemes, centrally sponsored schemes, central schemes, no need to worry, they are all notified. If you want to have a copy of that notification just for your use, otherwise it is basically the AUA, they know because they have already using Aadhaar authentication for that purpose, for that PDAs, Manrega, PM Kisan, all scholarship schemes, all recently published schemes, all schemes are notified under section 7. The last point is that Director IT Mission has mentioned in his presentation, and I bring to notice of our DTG sir also, to all of you, that in this whole process of section 7, UIDAI doesn't give any approval. Okay? Neither we approve nor we vet. So we only facilitate. In the central level also we follow the same process. At the state level, our role is only limited to facilitate. So if you draft a notification, if you have doubt that might not have done correctly, then you can refer to our regional office and then we'll give comments. But please don't ask for any approval, because approval is a wrong word. It is the guidelines have been issued. It is the State Department has to approve that notification. We only we are only to facilitate the process. This is one. Second is that the funds which are nature of disaster fund or relief fund, you have to check, because there was a reference from your side and we asked the question, it was not replied, but responded that way. If the relief funds and the disaster funds are not out of consolidated fund hota hai. So please check. In case of CMDRF, I think that is not a consolidated fund of state of Kerala. So section 7 is not applicable over here. Because that, please keep in mind, National Disaster Fund, all these are based on basically donations, voluntary donations, so that do not come under Consolidated Fund of India. Similarly, in the states also, that also you have to keep in mind that all reliefs and all disaster reliefs are not for section 7. Lastly, I am not able to interact because I think, I don't know, anyone would like to say that you have a state funded schemes and you are not using Aadhaar? Anyone from any department?
Local self-government department.
Local?
Self-government department.
Yeah, which scheme you tell? Please scheme?
There are sovereign schemes implemented by local self-government under the broader definition of annual plan. But here, the benefits will vary from government to government. So somebody will give laptops, somebody will give benefits to dairy farmers, and how combining all these schemes in a single notification, do we have to go for different notifications? You can foresee the schemes which is being implemented by the government.
Let me understand. What is the name of the scheme?
The broader scheme is annual plan.
What is that? Annual plan.
But there will be different plans.
No, annual plan is different from thing. You provide some funds to the local government, like your district and block office. That you are talking about. Okay, sir.
No, actually, what he makes is that there are different classes of beneficiaries. Beneficiaries are not equal, so they have to go for
Separate scheme, separate notifications. But if you are giving grants to the, like if you are giving grant to the school.
It's not like that.
No. What I'm saying that, I'm just giving an example. I am giving a grant to the school. School is permitted to use that grant for infrastructure, books and all everything. Right? So we said that the grant scheme to the school, that is the name of the scheme. So in this case, you are giving funds to the local government for different defined purposes. That you are saying. That can be a single scheme.
Actually, some of these schemes are beneficiary oriented, others are administrative oriented.
Okay.
Like infrastructure also.
The schemes are changing every year.
Oh, then it will be difficult. That will be difficult. So it is a different kind of, it is a contingency kind of thing that every year you change as per the requirements and then as per the plan and then you release the grant. Huh?
They can bring one general notification
That
saying that any beneficiary, all the beneficiary oriented schemes must.
it is bit different from other specific schemes. Then you have to basically design that way. So we can help you out. Like broadly, you know that these are the beneficiaries, these are the benefits. It may change, then it has to be written in broad terms. But with the rider, they're all for social welfare. Basically, the social welfare related schemes.
Also comes in here. Asking.
What is that?
Scholarships to students.
Yeah, scholarships are all covered under Section 7. But if it is again children, pre-matric children, then it will be that template has to be used. They are not mandatory. Yes, it is. You can use the Aadhaar, but it's not mandatory.
Another doubt in Section 7, there is a name of services, benefits and services. And what is the service? Can you please figure out a scenario where a service is coming as a benefit?
So in 2016, when the Aadhaar Act was enacted and it was passed by the Parliament, that the Aadhaar Act itself says it is for delivery of service, benefit and subsidy. So as I said in 2018, when between 2016 and 2018, there had been lots of petitions and it was challenged in the Supreme Court. During that time, Supreme Court in the judgment said that benefits and service, benefits and service should be those who are having a color of subsidy.
The service is not as a single term, it's coming to
That is a common that the terminology has been used in generic.
It has created some confusion because service,
Yes.
they took us online services.
No. It's not government services. So benefit and see our salaries, the government employee salaries are not also covered under Section 7 because it is not a benefit. Of course, it is earlier also it was not called benefit. Now Supreme Court has clearly said pension is not a benefit of the government employees, not the old age pension. Old age pension is different. Manrega workers, the kind of wages they get, that is covered under Section 7. But the honoraria which we are giving to Angadi workers or ASA, they are still being discussed whether they will withdraw the notification. They have been issued the notification in 2017. The honoraria, as per the Supreme Court judgment, they are not permitted under Section 7.
Healthcare could be a service, right? Under the public law. Healthcare services could be a service.
Sir?
Free healthcare is a service.
Free healthcare is a service. It is already covered in Ayushman Bharat. The scheme notification. If it is a center, you are talking about a centrally sponsored scheme or your state funded scheme?
Sir, any service given in the government hospital is a service. See the doctor's salary, the doctor's salary over there.
No. Doctor can.
No, because see the service is given free. The service is given by the doctor. The medicines are given free. The lab tests are given free or at a low rate. So all this comes under services which are born out of the consolidated fund of the state. So any healthcare service given from a government hospital should come under Section 7.
That you are saying?
I am saying.
Okay, what we said, free healthcare services can be covered under Section 7, but not doctor's salary or the other infrastructure thing, those cannot be covered. Because only the free healthcare service to avail. So Aadhaar, you will ask Aadhaar from whom? The beneficiary.
No, see, I did not say that it is a doctor's salary. The patient who is getting the service from a doctor is getting that consultation service free of cost.
Right?
And that cost is borne by the consultation service is given by the doctor. And that doctor's salary is borne out of consolidated funds of the state. That was what I was saying there.
That we are stretching that thing, but it is Doctor's salary is not covered under Section 7. It is not a benefit. That is the clear judgment which we have received.
The same earning.
Huh?
The same earning.
So then the cost of that service is borne from where?
No.
The doctor's service, the consultation service, the consultation or the medicine prescribed by the doctor.
No. That
is what?
No. That. See, Ayushman Bharat notification has been issued. National Health Mission, National Rural Health Mission. After that, National Health Mission. If you see in 2017, even in 2017, NHM one notification has been issued under National Health Mission is only for ASHA workers incentive, right? Free healthcare service also that time it was not included. Under Ayushman Bharat it has been included. Sir.
Sir, let me clarify. The thing is that not every expenditure under the consolidated fund must have Aadhaar. Okay.
Exactly.
Only those benefits which reach the beneficiaries, not employees. What employee gets is a salary. It is his right. It's not a benefit. So an employee need not use Aadhaar to authentication to get salary.
Exactly.
However, if a patient is receiving free treatment, then the patient can identify it through Aadhaar. I hope it's clear.
So I conclude on Section 7. So homework is that I think till now perhaps many of you have not received any official instruction from the government that you have to now notify your schemes under Section 7. That is very critical. I must tell you that out of 35 states and UTs, a couple of states including UT of Andaman and Chandigarh, Haryana to some extent, Himachal to some extent, they have saturated. All their state or UT funded schemes have been notified under Section 7 and now they are slowly covering the purposes under SWIC rules. Now what is SWIC rule? This Aadhaar amendment, the act which was amended, I will just take few minutes on this. That is a standard format. So Section 44B2, this part is there, which was amended in 2019. It provides that central government in consultation with the authority means UIDAI, in the interest of state may prescribe for Aadhaar authentication. So the entities who are asking for the Aadhaar authentication can be permitted if the central government is satisfied in consultation with the authority. A rule was subsequent to that Aadhaar Amendment Act in 2020, last year in August, SWIC rule, the rule was notified in the Gazette. It called it SWIC rule, Social Welfare, Innovation and Knowledge Rules. Under that rule, there are 3 defined purposes called good government purposes. The first one is very important, use of digital platform to ensure good governance. Second is prevention of dissemination of social welfare benefits. Third is the enablement of innovation and the spread of knowledge. Till now, around 70 proposals have been cleared by UIDAI and the MIT, as my colleague Mr. Manikbatra told. Mostly they covered this first part, that is digital platform to ensure good governance. So most of the purposes are under that. Now, under this, there are 3 rules, Rule 3, Rule 4 and Rule 5. Rule 4 says how to prepare the proposal. There is an application form, very simple form that has to be filled in by the concerned department. Rule 5 says that it will be examined. It is basically on us, the UIDAI and the MIT, how it will be examined. Followed by that, MIT in 2020, 18th August, you see, these are all there in the website, issued a detailed circular wherein one annexer is having the application form, another annexer is having detailed guidelines. So these 2 are there in the website. Now application form says that what basic things have to be there in the application, which are very simple. You have to describe your scheme, whatever the purpose you are going for. Specific purpose has to be defined in concise form. How you will be delivering the benefit, that has to be outlined. What kind of authentication service, yes, no or eKYC, which authentication service you are asking for, that has to be outlined. Who is your AUA or KUA, that has to be also clearly mentioned. If there is no AUA, KUA, then you have to apply for that before that. Technology architecture has to be given, how you will be processing the whole thing, because it is talking about the authentication. Service delivery process has to be also outlined. And finally, all the security, other compliances which our IS division, internal security division also outlined, those have to be complied with. And finally, the contact details of the person who will be submitting that application. Now, we examine based on certain things, but I must tell you one thing, that most of our 44B2 proposals which are coming through MIT to UIDAI for comments are lacking one critical part, that is that nowhere it is mentioned that this is voluntary. So this 44B2 is essentially a voluntary mechanism. You cannot make it mandatory. It means whatever applications you are preparing, you have to have a provision of Aadhaar and others. If somebody is not giving Aadhaar, you can't force. But some of the states, when they submitted the proposal, including the technical architecture, they actually made Aadhaar mandatory. So this part clearly highlights the Aadhaar is voluntary, was missing, and we had to send back that proposal and we had to get it revised. That's all from my side. Any specific question on this? But this 44B2, I think our AUA, Kerala State IT Mission, they are fully aware of that, because it is little technical in nature. They have to provide the technical architecture. So whenever you prepare a proposal, you have to consult our AUA, that is Kerala State IT Mission. Section 7 you can devise or draft yourself, and you can get it published with the help of your legal department. Thank you.
Sir, one doubt.
Sure.
I am Babu Umar from Fisheries Department. In every year we are providing more than 15 services to beneficiaries. For that we prepared a database. One database, and all fisher folk is included in database. And the Aadhaar authentication verification is done in that database. So whether the notification is one notification regarding the UIDAI verification of the database, or separately can be notified. Every services can, beneficiaries of services can be selected from the database and giving the services.
So, sir,
See, what he means is, they are preparing a database of beneficiaries. At the time of preparation of database, no benefit is transferred. So they are asking they are asking the beneficiary to identify. They are establishing the beneficiary.
And Aadhaar authentication
As
is
per-
done at that.
right,
Right. And benefit will be given in a future scheme.
see, Aadhaar, you cannot ask Aadhaar without a legal backing in the government system. That was, I think, amply made clear. So you cannot create a database. You cannot create a database without having a purpose and without having a legal backing. That is either Section 44B2 or Section 7. And that is not legally, it is not allowed. So you have to basically notify, and then you can create the database of a specific scheme.
There is a way out actually. Thing is that if they have a fisherman cooperative society or welfare society, to become a member you can say that
Notify.
they
You can notify.
Yes.
That to avail the benefits under those schemes, that can be notified. Once it is notified, then you can create the things. Any further question? I think I have taken more than 10 minutes or 20 minutes extra, I think. Done? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Saroj sir, for giving a maximum clarification on this process of notifying the various schemes. Now I call upon Mr. Nishit Parmar, Senior Associate from National Payment Corporation of India, NPCI, and he will be handling the session called Aadhaar Enabled Payment System. I welcome Nishit sir to the stage.
Hi, good afternoon everyone. I think my introduction was already given, but just to, in a short way, to summarize, I am Nishit Parmar. I am a part of National Payments Corporation of India, and I work in product team. So I am based out of Mumbai. As you are aware that NPCI as an organization is, the objective is to create more digitization towards payment products, and even Aadhaar is one of them, with blessing of UIDAI, where we extend the services of basic banking services to the beneficiary. So in my session, what I'm going to cover is what is the product all about, how is it making difference to the customers. I think many of them, as I was hearing during the previous sessions, are aware about how the authentication services are being used. In similar lines, we are also using it in Eeps, and how we can expand this in Kerala as a state, because there are various other states towards the northern part of the country who are doing exceptionally well. So we expect the same from Kerala state as well. So in the presentation, I'm going to cover all those points as to how it can be improved. So starting with the most important thing, what is Aeps? So Aadhaar enabled payment system is something which enables doorstep banking to the customer. It is a bank-led model which facilitates interoperable transactions. So when I say interoperable transactions between the two banks, the transactions can happen, and that is facilitated through NPCI with support of UIDAI. We have a similar concept over here as well, the ASA and the EUA concept which we follow. I will be speaking about that when I speak about when I explain the transaction flow. But more or less, just to make you understand, through AEPS, the basic banking services are extended to the untouched part of the country. So imagine a scenario where there is a location, there is no bank branch available, but the customer wants to make a banking transaction such as cash withdrawal or a deposit or a fund transfer. Such services are being extended through AEPS as a channel. Another important aspect of AEPS is that it helps in cash out. So as we were discussing, there are a lot of DBT has been released by the government. It could be as a mode of Aadhaar, it could be as a mode of account based. So once the credit is reaching into the customer's account, the cash out of how the withdrawals are been happening, it happens to bank branches, it happens through ATM. And but those places where there are no bank branches, where there are no ATMs, AEPS is something which plays a very important role, where there are business correspondents who go on the field and help the customers to withdraw those cash, and the basic banking services are being extended. The 4 A's that we are trying to solve through AEPS, first is the authentication. So the customer authentication which happens through the biometric, that is the fingerprint. We have iris and face authentication is also, which is something being launched by UIDAI. Accessibility of DBT funds. So these DBT funds could be as a part of state or a central credit or any welfare schemes that is being released by the government. So accessibility of the funds. Availability of banking services, and lastly affordability, because there is no charge to the customer. These services for the customers are absolutely free. So moving on to my next slide as to how the journey of AEPS has been since the time the product was started. So in 2011, when we got the approvals from RBI, when we received support from UIDAI that this model can be implemented, we started with 3 pilot banks, ICICI, Union Bank and Bank of India, and progressively by 2015, 50 odd banks were made live into the ecosystem, and 0.33 million of interoperable transactions were performed. As we move forward, in 2017, apart from the basic banking services, we also introduced something called as Bheem Aadhaar Pay, which is a merchant-led transaction, where whenever there is an exchange of goods and services, Bheem Aadhaar Pay plays a very important role, and this was being launched by the Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji. 2020, the nationwide lockdown period where everything was completely shut, but these business correspondents were there on the field to ensure that the basic banking services are not stopped, and those underserved customers were the basic banking services they were enjoying it. So I have a slide where I'm going to speak about this specific lockdown period. Allow me to move on to the last part, that is in 2022, where as on date we stand with 135 banks which are live on this network. When I say banks, these are the AUAs. Around 40 crore customers were served in the previous financial year through the AEPS and the eKYC channel, which is being facilitated by NPCI under the AEPS model. And Sub-KUA model was launched, so we have started looking at onboarding entities such as SBI cards and various other insurance entities who, before extending the services to the customer, perform an eKYC with support of UIDAI and NPCI. Lastly, 30 lakh active terminals were observed in the previous financial year. So 30 lakh such active points are there where the customers are transacting. This I'm speaking at a pan-India level. So this is a broad journey of AEPS, how it started in 2011, and now we are serving almost 40 crore customers per year. This is just a quick snapshot of what we had in the previous financial year. More of it was covered in the previous slide, where just the numbers. Key highlight over here, 32 crore plus interoperable transactions are performed on a monthly basis. So rupees 32 crore is being disbursed or being withdrawn or being transacted through the AEPS channel. Allow me to move on to the next slide, where especially as per the COVID time, and especially during April 20 when there was lockdown, when everything was completely stopped, people were not allowed to travel from one place to another. Imagine a scenario where a person has to travel 20 to 30 kilometers just to withdraw cash, right? Even the state transport and stuffs are not working, but if the customer wants to withdraw cash, how would he do it? And particularly that was the time when a lot of state government, central government were releasing subsidy payment as a safety net to the underserved, because those people working in corporate certainly enjoyed the benefit of salary, but those who are labor, who work on day-to-day wages basis, they were the worst impacted, right? So government had disbursed a lot of subsidy payment to them, and the withdrawal, the cash out of that subsidy majorly happened through APS, and these are the key number where 1.2 billion transactions were processed during that those period. 22 crore customers were served, 51 crore plus interoperable amount was disbursed, and lastly 20 lakh plus active terminals were there pan-India level to ensure that those customers who actually need these services are very much available and they are not getting impacted. Moving on to my next slide, here there is a brief snapshot of what the Eeps ecosystem looks like. We have different services which is there in APS. I have a slide followed by this where I am going to speak about different services. The network that is there, 135 unique banks which are live on the network. So if you look at the terminals, in March 19 we had 5.09 lakh terminals, and if you look today, in June 22 we had 33.19 lakh terminals. So the number of business correspondents who are there on these fields are also getting multiplied as the time is progressive, and so are the customers, because if you look at March 19 figures, we were at 5.95 CR, and now we have almost doubled it to 14.98 CR. So the terminals and the customers are multiplying year on year. Lastly, on the Bhim Aadhaar Pay side, as I said, it is a good and service exchange based transaction where 106 banks are live as on date, and we have a total of around approximately 3 lakh terminals which are there on the field, where customer is making use of the Aadhaar number and biometric for buying a good or a services, because we are living in a UPI era where in metro cities it is very convenient that we have a phone and we scan QR and we make a payment, right? But imagine a scenario if a customer is not that tax savvy, he's finding it difficult to use a phone. But in such scenarios, Aadhaar is a blessing where through Aadhaar he is able to buy goods and services and also enjoy the basic banking services. So broadly, I have categorized all the services which are available under AEPS, starting with cash deposit, cash withdrawal, Bhim Aadhaar Pay, and Aadhaar to Aadhaar fund transfer. So these are the 4 financial services which are available under AEPS. Moving on to the non-financial services, that is balance inquiry and mini statement. So financial and non-financial services, and lastly the other services such as authentication, demo auth, eKYC, tokenization, Aadhaar seeding status are the different services which are available under AEPS, and all of it has been facilitated through Aadhaar. Towards the right side of the screen, I have just tried to put one small story of a very recent scenario where there was flood being hit in Assam, and there was a lot of waterlogging that was there, but the business correspondent, as you see, were there on the field to ensure that the customers are able to withdraw cash, and this was only possible because there is Aadhaar, and through Aadhaar the authentication was being done and they were able to withdraw cash. Putting the pictures, I am not promoting any bank or any CSP point, but just trying to put an image that how these business correspondents are there on the field to ensure that the customers are able to enjoy the basic banking services through the UIDAI authentication facility. I'll just quickly take you through of how a journey looks like. So this is a terminal which a business correspondent carries, and he goes to the field, he helps the customer to do a transaction. Now that maximum of the transaction which happens in AEPS are cash withdrawal, I'll take that opportunity to explain that how cash withdrawal actually looks like. So this is a terminal. If you look at the top right side of the corner between the 2 white lines and 1 black line in between, that's the Platen area where the customer places the thumb impression. Towards the left top right corner, you will see the printer kind of a concept where after every transaction, the print received gets generated, and this is a tablet which is a touchpad kind of a scenario. So say for example, a cash withdrawal transaction is to be done. The customer first enters the Aadhaar number, will select the bank name where he holds an account, will enter the amount of withdrawal and will click on proceed. After they click on proceed, you see a light popping up towards the top right corner where the customer has to place the fingerprint. So after placing the fingerprint, the backend flow will begin. This transaction will come first to the bank, acquiring bank, where the terminal actually belongs to. The terminal bank will send this transaction to NPCI, and NPCI will send this transaction to UIDAI for authentication. UIDAI will give the authentication response, whether it is a successful or a failure response, basis which NPCI will route this to the customer's bank. Customer's bank will check in their core banking system whether the account number is active and whether the balance is available to debit, and accordingly will share a response back to the switch, back to NPCI, and this will go back to the terminal. So here I'll pause and I'll just explain how the AUA and the ASA concept works over here is the two banks, acquirer switch and the issuer switch. This acquirer switch and issuer switch, as per UIDAI terminology, it is called as an AUA. NPCI switch is an ASA, and UIDAI is the one who is helping us to doing the authentication. Whereas NPCI is acting as a gateway between the two parties. Acquirer switch is the acquiring bank where the terminal or the business correspondent has an account. Issuer bank is the customer's bank where the customer is holding an account. So the issuer bank account will get debited as it is a cash withdrawal, and the acquirer bank's business correspondent's account will get credited because he is disbursing the hard cash to the customer. So this is a broad level how a transaction flow in AEPS looks like from a cash withdrawal standpoint. Once the entire cycle gets completed, this is how it looks like. The terminal will show and then take a print receipt. There will be a print that will be generated, and the end-to-end transaction get completed within 30 to 40 seconds is what it takes. So here the best part is that the customer need not carry any form factor. If I want to make a UPI payment, I have to have my phone number. If I want to make a card payment, I have to have a card. But what if I don't have anything? My Aadhaar and my biometric is my identity. So this was never possible without UIDAI and the authentication services which they have provided. In this slide, what we have put is we have segregated the customers that are being served under AEPS and the terminals which are available. So this entire data points which we have considered to put this chart, I will explain this chart in detail so that it helps you in a better understanding and also expand the network. What we have done is we have considered the Q1 data of the current financial year, that is April, May and June. So we have clubbed these 3 months together and we have categorized state-wise customers and state-wise terminals. And we have created a heat map out of it. So Kerala as a state stands at around the unique customers, the customers that were served in the first 3 months of the current financial year. 78 lakh plus terminals were available, and 0.35% of the contribution is there towards the ecosystem. So the numbers which you are seeing right on the top, whereas West Bengal, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra. So these are top 5 states who are the major contributors towards the unique customers and the unique terminals. But if we are drawing the comparison with Kerala, the numbers are slightly on the lower side, which is where we will need more support from the agencies, the customer service points, the banks in deploying more and more terminals where the customer is not able to enjoy the basic banking services because non-availability of the branch or various other reasons. So such pain areas are to be identified. Opportunities are to be created and more terminals are to be deployed so that the customers are served. That's more important. So what we are trying to put on this slide is that as far as the terminals and as far as the customers are concerned, we will need support from Kerala state to deploy more devices, encourage more customers to enjoy these services so that the objective of extending the doorstep banking to the customer is actually been enhanced. This is Bhim Aadhaar Pay. So while I was explaining the different type of services which is available under AEPS, one of them was Bhim Aadhaar Pay as I spoke about. So Bhim Aadhaar Pay is a merchant transaction where if I am a customer, I have to purchase some good, where there is an exchange of goods and services that is involved. Bhim Aadhaar Pay is something that helps. A basic requirement is that internet and a mobile phone is required for the merchant or the kirana shop or the person who is facilitating this transaction. Internet may not be so strong, even 2G, 3G works because it is that capable enough to handle low network bandwidth also. And the important use cases which can be explored. So in Kerala state we have something called as Akshaya E-Kendra. So Akshaya E-Kendra is, as you all are very much aware, that they provide a lot of services to the customer. That is, if insurance is to be taken, if payment of fees is to be done, and likewise there are some 20 to 25 different services which have been provided by Akshaya E-Kendra, where the customer is using the customer service point for making payment. So at these such CSP points, and another gentleman over there was speaking about something on the fisherman side. Another gentleman there was speaking something about the doctor's payment. So various other payment, various other such points where the goods and services are getting exchanged. Bhim Aadhaar Pay is as a service can be implemented. These terminals can be deployed so that it helps the customer in making the transaction basis the Aadhaar and the biometric. A typical use cases are EMI collection. So today what happens is that various MFIs, if they want to collect money, what they do is they send one agent and he collects a lot of hard cash and then he goes back. So collecting this hard cash and going back, maintaining this entire chain itself is so monotonous, and it creates a lot of risk in the system also, because if the money is gone, the agent is liable for all those things. So imagine the agent carrying a terminal, he is going to the customer, he is asking the customer, place thumb up, place thumbprint, give me your Aadhaar number and your payment is done. Your MFI collection is done. So this is how the payment gets simplified, and even an illiterate customer or a customer who is not so tech savvy may be able to enjoy a payment using this Bhim Aadhaar Pay. Medical store, retail shops, agricultural product shops, LPG payment collections. So there are a lot of LPG centers where the customer come, they generally buy cylinders and various other services which they use there, and they make payment. They make a payment either in cash, or they may not be so tech savvy to make a UPI or a card payment. So at such points, such areas could be identified where you can deploy terminals and the customer can provide the Aadhaar number, biometric, and make the payment. Lastly, the education collection fees. So education fees is also something which the parent wants to make on behalf of their children. Even at schools and at such centers, these Bhim Aadhaar Pay terminals can be deployed where the payment can be done. So what we have done over here is that we have summarized all the use cases into a few critical ones which we feel as Kerala state can be Kerala as a state can take this as an input, and you can go back and reflect where these terminals can be put into place, so that it may help the customer as well as a state to grow, and the customers can benefit out of it. Moving towards the last part of my slide, the way forward that we have as to which all services or what is the way forward from NPCI in terms of this Aadhaar enabled payment system is concerned. So as a platform, what we are doing is we are migrating from an old infrastructure to a new infrastructure. The new infrastructure is going to be more future proof. It will help in building a lot of new use cases. SHG is something which I have mentioned in point number 3, self-help group. So as you all might be aware that self-help group today in the ecosystem is outside the banking system, where it may be at a branch level, but still a lot of movement is happening in cash. So if you go to see NRLM, the National Rural Livelihood Mission, the data which they publish, around 40 lakh odd SHG accounts are there as per their data points, and what happens is that the majority of it is outside the banking system. So why not we leverage this opportunity, bring them into banking system through the SHG model. So NPCI has introduced this SHG model where a dual authentication can be done, because SHG is a concept where a group of people are there and a couple of members of that group are allowed to transact on behalf of the group, right? So to facilitate that dual authentication, NPCI has launched the dual authentication facility for SHG, and encouraging the states and as well as NRLM is also supporting us to move these SHGs into a formal banking system so that even they can enjoy, because currently, as I said, a lot of things are happening in cash. For them also to maintain all those things are a little bit of monotonous job. So this can be digitized. The last two aspects, face authentication. So UIDAI has very recently launched face authentication. Fingerprint and iris based authentication was already there existing in the market. Face authentication is something which is very newly launched, and we have one of the AUA, that is Kotak Mahindra Bank, who has gone live on the face authentication, and they are currently doing eKYC. So as UIDAI has guided us that we should start with the non-financial transactions and progressively move towards the financial transactions, face authentication is something that we have recently launched. I'll just take 30 seconds to explain how it is benefiting or how it may benefit. So we are talking about a customer segment that is more of a the underserved, or the one who are doing a lot of hard work on the field, such as labor, such as farm, etc. So when people do hard work on the field, they tend to lose the fingerprint actually as per what it was there when they had enrolled for Aadhaar versus what they have right now. So the fingerprint may fade away, or it also has a seasonal impact. During winter there is dry skin that is coming out. During summer there is sweat that is there. So when this fingerprint is placed on the terminal, there are high chances of declines, because obviously the data which is there with UIDAI and the one that is coming from the terminal, as we saw in the example, will not match. It may lead to decline, right? So in order to get away with these declines, I think face authentication is something that will really enhance the customer experience. And also the COVID thing that we have been speaking since a very long time, the new normal, the contactless thing. I think face authentication is something which will really help in two ways. One is a contactless authentication, and the second one is where it will help in reducing a lot of declines. So while we explore to bring a lot of terminals in Kerala state, and we expect that it will come, so face authentication is something that can be explored, because that is very much there in the existing tablet only. The terminal that we saw in my previous slide is more of a tablet, and that tablet has an inbuilt capability of camera also. So that camera can capture the face data, and face data is something which is already available with UIDAI. At the time of enrollment, it is captured. So face authentication, as we expect, that should be the future. And lastly, the cash deposit services. So cash deposit services is very recently, a year old service which we have launched. We have 25 odd banks who are live on this cash deposit service. A general study which I had read about, and what we also keep hearing a lot, that when there is a particular location where there is no bank branch, or where there is no such kind of a BC concept, people are afraid to put the money in the bank. What happens is that when a business correspondent is going in at that location, or where ATM is getting deployed at that location, or if a bank branch is coming at that location, people are automatically starting depositing cash, they are withdrawing cash, and they are starting to use those services. So my encouragement to the entire Kerala team is that we should look to identify such key areas where we can leverage the opportunity and implement the Bhim Aadhaar Pay as a goods and service exchange, and explore and especially the member banks, if they are available here, to explore the opportunity where you can deploy more devices so that the basic banking services can be extended. So this is a broad and a crisp submission from my side. I don't want to stretch it too long. That's it from my side. I think I'm open for questions. So any questions, or? I was very clear in my presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nishit sir. So, to wrap up the session, our DDG sir wanted to say a few words. And before that, we can just give an opportunity to you, in case you have got any doubts, you can feel free to ask. So this will be the open forum. One person may be having a doubt, which may be clarifying many other people's doubt where it is running in their mind, where they may not be able to clarify. So you can take this opportunity. Anybody? So now I request DDG RO Bangalore sir to come to the stage.
Thank you very much. We have come to the end of the session. Just a few concluding remarks. I have handled the state of Kerala in RO Bengaluru for the past 4.5 years. I have only words of praise for Akshaya. In all these 4.5 years, we have not received a single complaint about any operator. No corrupt practice, no overcharging, and the services are uniformly satisfactory, and only Government of Kerala could have achieved this. Now, you have a wonderful system. All your people have taken Aadhaar, and your update and enrollment are doing fine. Now the point is, what is the use of all this if you are not putting Aadhaar to proper use? Now the use of Aadhaar is mainly to identify the beneficiaries and to prevent double payment, and that task Aadhaar is doing very well. So my request to the Government of Kerala is that senior officers are here, please go back, see which of the schemes you can notify. We have given you all these outline. You can contact us for details. See which of your schemes can be notified under this, where Aadhaar can be used for establishing the identity of a beneficiary. The second point I would like to tell you is that we are opening a state office in Thiruvananthapuram very soon, maybe within next 2-3 months. And we are going to station one director level officer here And he would be assisted by a deputy director, and we are giving a grievance redressal mechanism also, so that people in southern Kerala can resolve their serious grievances. There are certain serious grievances where we have to ask them to come to Kochi. Now onwards, they need not go to Kochi. They can get all this resolved in Thiruvananthapuram itself. We seek continuous cooperation and support from Government of Kerala. Thank you.
Now we have reached to the concluded session, and I am here to give the vote of thanks. First of all, I would thank Dr. V.P. Joy, the Honorable Chief Secretary, Government of Kerala, who has spared valuable time and was present here to inaugurate the workshop as well as address the audience. Then Mr. Mohan Krishnan, that is Senior Director at NIC. I would like to thank him because he has also spared the valuable time and addressed the audience. Mr. Snehil Kumar Singh, Director KSITM. Thanks a lot for the wonderful presentation which he has presented to the audience, and he has mentioned the various activities which are being performed while using the Aadhaar services, how it has been integrated to the services which are being provided by Government of Kerala. So, thank you to Madam Vidushi Chaturvedi also, that is DDG Legal and Finance, UIDAI headquarters. She has given a detailed view of the legal aspects of the Aadhaar related services. Then I will come to the speakers portion. Speakers, Mr. Saroj Adhikari is the Deputy Director at headquarters, and Mr. Manik Batra is the General Manager at HQ. So that one portion has left out for the mementos to the speakers, that I would like to request DDG sir to kindly present the memento to the speakers so that we can have now. Yes. Mr. Manik Batra, Mr. Nishit Parmar, NPCI. So we have the virtual speakers as well. Mr. Rashmirath, Mr. Chandrakant. These are the virtual speakers. Rashmirath. Mr. Saroj Adhikari can take on behalf of Mr. Rashmirath.
Sure. Thank you.
Tech Center will go and give to Tech Center. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. UIDAI headquarters, New Delhi. And I would like to thank both of them. In person, they have attended the workshop. And as well as the most important session was also presented, because section 7 and section 44B2, these are the most important crucial notifications, and the practical relevance is also there in that. Thank you to Mr. Adhikari and Mr. Manik Batra. And Mr. Rashmirath, Deputy Director, he has presented his information security PPT very well, and he has elaborated the details which are there hidden in the system, and he has tried to explain all these things to the audience. Thank you, Mr. Rashmirath. Mr. Nishit Pawar. Mr. Nishit Pawar also has presented the presentation on the Aadhaar and enabled payment system, AEPS. And very well, this is the practical relevance presentation. Thank you, Mr. Pawar, and he has taken the burden to come from Mumbai to Thiruvananthapuram for presenting his this work. Thank you, Mr. Parmar. Mr. Chandrakant and Mansi, Miss Mansi, they have joined through VC from the UIDAI Tech Center. Thanks to both of them. And the participants who has participated in the workshop. A big thank you to the participants. Without any participants, we would not have thought of any workshop. So a big thank you to the participants as well. So it is requested to kindly make use of the presentation and adopt as well as apply in the Aadhaar related services which the departments as well as registrar AU, KUS they are performing in their normal routine functions. Then we can come to the organizer team. Mr. Krishnamurthy, that is the Deputy Director. Mr. Anand Bhatt, that is Manager IC. And Mr. Vimal Gio. So these are the three main leaders who have taken a load of organizing the workshop. Mr. Musab as well, the Kerala team entire, Mr. Musab, Mr. Naresh and Mr. Vimal. So they have contributed a lot to make it successful, the workshop. Thank you to all of you. And all the NISG resources, they have come from Bangalore to Thiruvananthapuram and they have contributed to each and individual activity of the workshop. So thanks a lot to all the members of NISG. And a big thank you to our DDG sir, whose overall guidance and valuable guidance has contributed a lot immensely in performing and in motivating the participant, in motivating the speakers, participant and the entire, we can say the entire system. A big thank you to our DDG sir and of course the CEO sir, because CEO sir has approved and he has instructed to organize these workshops. So thank you sir. And above all this this one Hotel Hilton Grand Inn where we are in here. So thanks to the hotel for the wonderful arrangements as well as the external agency who has performed very well and who has done all these VC arrangements and they have facilitated for all these things. Thank you very much sir. One and all, thank you so much.